Hello, friends, and welcome back to Like Anime. My name's George, and with me is Tony.
I am Tony.
We're back again, and this is a special episode.
Yep, George is actually on vacation this week. He's not here right now. I mean, he's here right now when we're recording this, but he's not here right now when you're listening to it, unless you're listening to it later, in which case he might be back.
Yes, that could be, depending. But yes, this is going to be ammunition for us in the future, so I can take a week off, be out of town, and we'll still have some episodes come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's good.
we'll both get a break.
Yeah.
But there's a show, we're joined because there's a show that came out winter 2021 called Wonder Egg Priority.
Wonder Egg, yes.
And I think it was pretty well received. Like, it seems like a lot of people were into it online anyway. I had a coworker tell me her daughters are into it as well. And they're kind of young, and it's kind of a dark, heavy show.
Yeah, heavy, yeah.
Deals with suicide and depression, and it doesn't glorify these things, but explores them in a kind of devastating way. But there's some positivity mixed in there too. But we waited till now because they didn't put out the final episode. It just came out. We're recording this beginning of July, and it just came out the end of June.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we figured we'd get together and talk about the show as a whole, talk about this final episode, which has received some mixed reviews online.
Yes.
And and then kind of give our thoughts and kind of speculate, what could have been done differently or what might happen if there's going to be more Wonder Egg in the future.
Yeah. Yep, all of that stuff.
You agree?
I'm just agreeing with everything you say.
I love it.
That's my job today, I think.
So without further ado, I guess we'll get into it.
Yeah. So what happens in the first episode, I guess, is that where we're starting?
Well, we probably don't have to dig like super deep, but yeah, first episode sets everything up. And so we're introduced to our main character whose name is I Oto or Oto I, depending on how you look at the names there. Her name's AI, and she...
AI?
I know, she's artificial intelligence. That would be so dumb if that was a reveal.
Yeah.
It's like, it was in my name the whole time.
Yeah, that would have been. I means love.
That's true.
Yeah. Maybe that's, I don't know. Is she love?
Maybe.
So
we're introduced to her. She's, we don't really learn right away, but you get kind of this inkling that she lost someone close to her.
She hasn't been going to school for a while or something. We find out.
Kind of become a shut-in,
yeah.
And she's been mourning this loss of someone close to her. And then, but see, that's what I love about the first episode is it's hard to tell if she's in a dream or not. You watched this when it came out, I think, or thereabout.
Yep.
And
months ago.
Yeah, months ago. Because we had a false start with the podcast, and this is one of our shows that we were going to cover, but then it just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't take off. I think I took on too many shows and wasn't ready. So we started the following season, which we're now wrapping up, or I guess we'll be wrapped up.
Yep.
By the time this
we're
comes
now in the
out.
season after that.
Yeah. So we're rocking it. We're showing that we're gonna stick around. Got some longevity. But yeah. So Wonder Egg calls back to that. But I kind of fell off the boat, so I rewatched this much more recently. But in rewatching that first episode, it's hard to tell if it's a dream state or not, but she leaves her house at night and she lives with her mom. Dad's not really in the picture. And we don't learn this right away either, but she is stumbling around at night and she finds this, she's kind of drawn by this voice that I think it's like a bug or something that's kind of talking to her. And she, even more feels like a dream,
Right.
And lures her underneath this abandoned shopping mall, where she goes down these stairs. It's all dark, kind of creepy. And then she goes through this sort of tunnel. It's like a slide almost that dumps her out into...
I kind of remember this. It felt sort of Donnie Darko-ish to me for some reason. Like, remember, there's always like... Because he's in like sort of a dream thing when he goes to sleep. And then he goes and he wakes up like on the golf course or whatever. And he's following that rabbit.
Yeah.
Anyway, reminded me of that. Not that there's any real correlation or comparison there, but for some
Yeah.
reason it just kind of called that back to mind.
Yeah, visually what they're doing. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but that's a good comparison. So she
So maybe
finds.
she's time traveling. No, I don't know. Sorry, continue. She finds.
She finds the little bug thing. I forget what it is, like a moth or a firefly or something. Leads her to this vending machine, or not vending machine, but it's like one of those gotcha machines.
Gachapon, yeah.
And we put like quarters in, and you get like a, little one of those little plastic. You usually get like a little plastic thing that has like a toy in it or something,
Yeah.
or like stickers or something. But instead, she gets an egg, and that kind of sets everything up. And so then later on, when she is in a dream, we know she's in a dream. She has this egg, doesn't know what to do with it, and then she's told to crack it. Like the toilet paper starts talking to her. She's in her school in the dream, and so she ends up cracking the egg, and this girl, comes out and kind of wakes up, and we learn from there that there's this whole setup of these girls in their dreams with these eggs, cracking them so they hatch these other girls who, in their world, committed suicide, and they're essentially trying to save them in this dream world. And we don't really know why, and we don't really know what the circumstance of that is, but that's essentially the premise.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
There's something written on the egg, I think, the first one she gets, and I don't remember what it was. Was it in?
Yeah, there is writing on the egg. I don't remember.
Okay.
That might be some vital information, but
yeah, I don't remember what it was, so it can't be that important, right?
Yeah. And as things go on, she starts going back and back to get eggs. Oh, so I guess in the dream world, in this first instance, they're running away from these see no evils, they call them.
Yeah.
They're like these little like troll like guys that are kind of doing flips, and they have knives, and they're
like Pac-Man with lots of teeth and arms and legs.
Yeah.
Although Pac-Man is sometimes depicted as having arms and legs. But anyway.
And they're chasing after them, but it's not like a sprint. They're just sort of this force that's kind of slowly encroaching on them. But as they're running through the school, they start to close in on them, and they eventually break out of the school. And then always, this happens several times throughout the show, but they're always confronted with some enemy, some big boss that is in direct relation to someone that had a huge negative effect on the person they're trying to save. Right. And so it's either like a gym teacher, or it's usually an adult. It's usually some adult that didn't give them the love and care that they needed, or was abusive to them in some way. And then in the dream, I don't know what it is. Has a lot of mundane items become weapons in the dream, and so she has. I don't know what it is.
It's one of those 4-color pens.
Oh, that's what it. Yeah, that's right. It's just when it transforms, I always forget what it was. It was. But that's right. Yeah, one of those clicky pens where you can change the colors.
Yeah.
And and so she ends up, getting, at first she doesn't want to, doesn't know what to do. She's scared, but then she gets her wits about her, and she's motivated by the loss of her friend, who we find out committed suicide. Although we don't learn the circumstances till this final episode we'll get to. But
yeah, I mean,
entirely.
in the penultimate episode, the 12th episode, they kind of hint at a reason, but then they fill it in a little bit more in the final
kind of lay it
special.
Out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's essentially the first episode. It sets everything up, and then as we go on, as I starts to get more and more eggs, because they essentially.
Well, it's like isn't it the second time she goes in? She encounters the other girl in her dream, and then they like work together or something. Is that the second one? I don't. It's been so long since I watched it.
Well, I remember her going to get another egg, because essentially what they assume, or what I assumed to be the case, is that if she saves enough girls in her dream, then it will bring back her friend.
Yeah.
Whose name is Koito.
Yeah, I don't know that that's ever said specifically to them, but it is that is what she and the other girls have
Believe.
decided is true. Yeah.
And because when they're in the dream world, they find statues of that person, whoever that person is for them. And
Yeah.
as they save more and more girls, they touch the statue and they can feel it's getting warmer. So they you know, relate that to, them coming more and more alive. And they don't know how many they have to save, but they're going to do it. So Ai is motivated to go back the next day and get more eggs. And then she runs into Nehru, who's getting eggs ahead of her.
Oh, that's right. Nehru is the... Okay.
She's the second one. And then that's also when we are introduced to these doll-like characters who are adults, but they kind of have just like crash test dummy bodies, essentially.
Yeah. The Akkas.
Yes, Akka and Ura Akka.
Uraraka?
Yeah, it's a My Hero tie-in.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Akka and Uru Akka.
Yes. And so we don't learn much about them at first, but they're just there chilling at a table and
playing chess or something. I don't remember.
Just kind of shooting the
Maybe they're playing Go. Something more Japanese maybe than chess. I don't know.
shogi. Who knows?
Could be.
Who knows what those guys are up to? Yeah, so I meets Nehru, and at first Nehru's kind of distant, cold, not really friendly. But then they manage to slowly become friends.
I mean, doesn't I just sort of say that they're going to be friends or something? She just decides that they're going to be friends and then tells Nehru, "You're my friend now," or something.
Something like that.
I kind of remember something like that.
And Nehru doesn't... I like the characterizations in this show because they feel natural and fluid. But yeah, Nehru isn't, completely receptive to that. She's just like, okay, whatever. But she's slowly won over by Ai.
Yeah.
To the point where we meet the next girl, which might be the one you're referring to.
Yeah.
She does meet in the
Is
dream.
it Rika?
Yes.
Is that it?
I have it written down. Rika, yeah.
Oh, I got it right.
Nice.
Whew. Pat on the back. Good job.
And she's the blonde girl with like the pink tips.
Yeah. She's a former idol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we learn that the girl she's trying to save was one of her fans. And she was like a heavy-set girl that Rika always looked down on and was extorting essentially like money from her. And Rika, that's a lot of her personality is when she first meets Ai and they start hanging out, she's just like stuck to her like glue, Rika is, and just, always being like, I forgot my wallet. Can you buy my eggs? Or,
right.
Which that sounds weird. Always bumming for money. Shamelessly,
despite the fact that she is an idol and probably has lots of money, right?
I know she's an ex-idol, but you'd think that she would have something,
probably
some kind of savings or.
But yeah, and she comes off really sort of feelingless, I guess. Like I don't know how to describe it.
Jaded
like,
or
yeah,
like she does like completely like as a teenage girl, but like feigning that she doesn't care,
right?
When it's more of a veneer of. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the way that she latches onto Ai makes it pretty clear that everything she says is basically fake.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, well, I'm an idol and I don't really care or whatever. And, I don't know.
Yeah. And even when they're talking about, because they're each going around talking about who they're trying to save.
Right.
And at first, Rika just will not come clean. She's trying to downplay it like, oh, I pity her and, I miss my wallet. She would refer to it, this girl as her wallet,
right?
The fan. And but then she eventually, after being coaxed and kind of backed into a corner, like admits in her own way that she does care about her. And I don't know, lost a sense of herself after that. And so there's more to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what she says. I mean, so there was the scene where in the dream and she's talking to the fat girl, the fat fan girl, who is a statue at that point or whatever.
Yeah.
And she just says like mean things to her and stuff. But
yeah.
It's still that same sort of fakeness of like everything she says is fake. Like she's like, oh, you're so gross, your hands are sweaty or whatever. But that's just her sort of covering up her own insecurities, I guess. I don't know. Insecurities, her own, like she seems to be doing this more out of guilt than anything else. She feels responsible for this girl having killed herself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm jumping the gun because we're going to I feel like I'm going to start talking about the reasons the girls killed themselves and what our girls are sort of getting out of the experience, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is
Well,
it too early to jump into that?
yeah, maybe. Well, okay. So I guess will finish introducing. There's one more main character.
There's one more. Yeah.
Momoe,
Yeah.
which I think Momo for short,
Yeah.
is a female character, but sort of. I don't. It seems like she dresses more like a guy, or at least kind of just has more of that look, and so she's
Yeah.
often mistaken for a guy, and so she's used to having all these other girls, hit on her and be really into her, and that's the person she's trying to save, was someone who had confessed her love to her and then ended up killing herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's the final one, and I think one of the things you're kind of getting at is that in the course of doing this, they're all of them don't neither of them really have any close friends.
Mm.
Especially excluding the person they lost, which for Rika wasn't really that close, but they're all united by the nightmare that they're living when they go to sleep each night, and the quest that they're trying to complete. And so it starts to bring them together, and despite them having differences, like Rika and Nehru are often clashing, and Momoe is often clashing with Rika and Nehru to some extent, but despite that, they all start to come together, and it all kind of becomes this like therapeutic thing.
Yeah.
Where they start to feel better. They start to have like a lightness of being, of just just being alive. Like they don't feel as
one of them jokes at one point that it's like group therapy or something like that, which is essentially what it is.
Yeah, no, it's true. And that's where, like, at this point in the story, I really like that, and it was very effective, their bond and how it came to be, despite there being disagreements and being issues. Like, it was a very well written character dynamic, and I kind of viewed the dream world as something that would be more of a
Wait, you did or I did?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Me, George. No, but I thought that, I viewed it more as a metaphor or something, or like a shared, experience they were having that may not necessarily be real. But that was just my take at the time.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of what we were supposed to think. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, they went out of their way to leave it open ended, and I liked that teetering that the show did. Kind of midway through.
Yeah. What was I getting at with Rika then? With Rika, yeah, she felt guilt about her friend having killed herself, but then I guess it's getting towards the end of the series where we find out like maybe the real reasons that each of these girls had killed themselves, or at least what their big demons were, and it like. In the case of the chubby girl, the fan girl, it wasn't Rika that was the major influence or problem or anything. And, eventually Rika has to help her face that problem to be reborn or whatever it is, right? I don't know. I was just trying to get at Rika's mental state of why she, is pretending not to care, but then she does care, but then like the actual healing for her comes in realizing that this girl had a lot more problems than just her using her as a wallet, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think Rika blames herself the whole time.
Yeah.
Up until that point where she sort of realizes like my influence was actually probably a positive influence because it gave that girl someone to look up to, and she thought they were friends, and
there was some light there in her world that
so that was the light that Rika sort of offered this fangirl.
And there's something similar going on with I and her friend Koito, where like I realized that she didn't really know Koito that well, but Koito had lifted her up so much that she felt extremely close to her, and and that she felt that loss like very heavily. And it's like kind of the idea of like, even if she was a quote unquote fake friend, does it really matter if she helped you during during a time that was really
Right.
rough?
Yeah, it was. I mean, she was her only friend
Yeah,
essentially. She had no other friends. She got bullied and stuff like that because of her heterochromia, the two different colored eyes thing.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, she. What's her name? The friend's name?
Koito.
Koito. Yeah, Koito. Said, "Oh, I think your eye's beautiful," and was
Mm.
very friendly and yeah,
Yeah, and it lifted her up. Like
yeah,
yeah, she gave gave her a reason to accept herself. Which it's like that's why I love like these themes. Especially teenage years.
mm,
It's a very stressful hormonal time of trying to figure out who you are and what you care about and what's important to you, and
yeah.
they
And
capture that well.
Eye's story has a lot of like sort of dark MacGuffins, I guess. Things that we're still trying to figure out why Koito, killed herself. Basically, Eye
Yeah.
is also trying to figure this out. We're sort of trying to figure it out through Eye, I guess.
Mm.
And I, um, yeah, encounters a lot of different things along the way that she thinks might be the reason. One of which is she thinks that one of the teachers might have been having an inappropriate relationship with Koito.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that this teacher is dating Ai's mother now.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Sawaki, that's his name.
And so she has a lot of worries surrounding that because this teacher is very nice to her as well. And I think because Ai is not used to having people be nice to her, really,
Yeah.
she thinks he has ulterior motives. And that whole idea of him having an inappropriate relationship with Koito, he fears that that he is using her mother to get closer to her.
Yeah.
For similar reasons. Anyway, like
And
I
this
say,
is
it's sort of a dark MacGuffin that's just sort
Yeah.
of, thrown in along the way. We find out later that that's not the case, but
Yeah, and it's interesting because that all comes about when the four girls are kind of all hanging out and gabbing and speculating about, Mr. Sawaki's intentions with her mom,
mhm.
and then we also learn that Momoe is Mr. Sawaki's niece, and so
No, I forgot about that.
yeah, which I don't know, doesn't really play into much except for when I think it's Rika who's like, kind of starts speculating, throwing these ideas at Ai of like, maybe Koito and he had a thing going,
Right.
and maybe he's up to no good with your mom, and Momoe gets very upset about this.
Right.
That's my uncle, and he wouldn't do that, and yada yada. But yeah, then it seems after that Ai goes back to school to learn more, I guess, to kind of be around him more, to ask him more about Koito, or
Mhm.
to observe him, or I don't know, because there's this very dramatic scene where she like rushes to school and she finds him, and he's just like walking to a class or something, and very dramatically she's like, "I'm coming back to school," and it was just like, okay, like if it's not for those reasons, I'm not sure why, but it seemed to be that she it was more for that, like she wanted to find out more about why Koito died.
Yeah. And then let's see, what else do we have? So we've talked about Rika's and Ai's. Nehru, the
Yeah.
person Nehru is trying to save is her little sister, who stabbed her in the back.
She has a giant
like
scar.
literally, I don't mean, figuratively stabbed her in the back, but literally like,
Yeah.
attacked her with
Like
a knife.
sliced her down, like
Yeah.
not just in, but down the
Yeah.
down the spine.
Yeah. And then apparently ran away and jumped off a bridge or something. I don't remember exactly how she died, but
Something like that. But then I got confused because later on there's a girl that's kind of in a vegetative state that's in her.
mm,
Well, here's another thing that I don't know why was important. I guess we'll get to it later, but I'll just plant the seed here. Is that Nehru is in charge of this like large corporation?
yeah.
Even though, and she doesn't go to school, and she's in charge of this, even though she's same age as any of them, 16 or
Right.
whatever they're supposed to be.
Yeah. And it does get sort of explained. I mean, without getting into the finale, they do try and explain it before that.
Yeah,
In
a
some
little
ways,
bit.
but yeah. But yeah, it's all just a bunch
But
of
is-
MacGuffins and stuff.
But is that the little sister, or
No,
they're unrelated? Okay,
that
I just
is
got confused.
that is her friend who I mean, I guess we might as well spoil the rest of Nehru's story, which is
Yeah.
that she was created by, I don't know if it's that company or another company, but the Akkas apparently had something to do with it. It's some like genius society,
Yeah.
and the story that we're told is that, you know, through some like in vitro fertilization or something, they take the two geniuses and make this super genius child, basically, and that's what Nehru is.
Yeah.
Um,
And this other girl is also from that. That's
and
the one
yes,
that's yeah. And
so she is another child from a similar process that company did, trying to create these geniuses that'll, you know, help solve the problems of the world or something like that, I guess is the
yeah.
idea. But this girl who, first time we see her, she's in basically an iron lung. She's in a vegetative state. And they talk about like what she was working on, which has a little to do with like parallel worlds theory, if I remember right.
Yeah, which ties into this egg thing. But yeah, she was like experimenting on her own body by getting, near death experiences,
Yeah.
trying to reach some sort of.
Basically, sort of killing herself and then coming back.
Yeah.
And apparently, she went too far one time, ended up in a vegetative state or whatever. And Nehru just has this iron lung in her apartment where she keeps her friend,
And she
who was also probably Nehru's only friend. So we've still got that only friend thing,
Yes.
right?
And she brings all the girls there at some point during the show to mainly to show them and then to get their. She essentially like wants their feedback on should I pull the plug or like.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, don't do that.
But didn't she say that she had encountered her in one of the dreams somewhere or something?
And we do see that.
Yeah, and that is what indicated to her that she was actually dead. And
Yeah, that she had. But then it's established that these girls are from parallel worlds because I don't know how far we're jumping ahead, but
yeah, so sometimes I guess yes, the girls that they encounter are from parallel worlds. So the girl that she encountered, who also has heterochromia, by the way, which we find out later. I think I don't remember if we saw it at the time. Maybe we did. But anyway, this other girl, at some point, it's explained that she is from a parallel universe. She's a parallel universe version of that girl.
Yeah.
Meaning that the one that's in the iron lung maybe isn't actually dead. I don't know. It can be a bit confusing at times.
Yeah.
This show.
Not everything has been resolved by the end of the last episode, which we haven't got to yet.
No.
But I suppose. Oh, sorry.
Well, that's three of them, and then we've got Momoe, right?
Yes. Who is I briefly mentioned is trying to save this girl that had confessed her love,
right?
And then ended up killing herself.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot you mentioned that. So yeah, you're right.
But I don't remember. I don't know if there's much more to say about her.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything either once you reminded me that you had already said that. So.
But I suppose now we should get into Akka and Uda Akka and their backstory. I think that comes next.
Yeah, that's probably the next thing. So the Akkas who run this genius society or whatever it is, I guess, or maybe they're just members of it. It's a little bit unclear.
I got to be higher ups at least, right?
But they both. It's been a long time since I watched this, so I'm going to do my best.
I like it.
They both are in love with the same girl who is like a lab assistant for them or works with them in whatever scientific lab. They just do sciencey stuff. We don't know exactly what.
Yeah.
And one of them ends up dating her and marrying her and having a child with her.
You're jumping ahead a little bit.
Okay.
But I mean, you're right. But before that, this is so funny, but they have all their duties of this, whatever they do.
Duties.
And duties. That's for our core audience. Little joke for you. They seemingly, even though they're so busy, they want something. They want like a family or something. So seemingly out of boredom, they on their off time they create this AI to be a
Is that the order that it happens in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had it backwards in my head.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, they might have like introduced the idea of this coworker and stuff first, but they definitely create this AI like well before either of them dates this other girl.
Okay. See, I thought the way I was remembering it was the child that the two had, the girl and the one guy had together, like something happens to her or something like that. And
Yes.
oh, right. I see why it's backwards now. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep. As soon as I got to that point, I was like, oh, that's right.
Well, like you just said a moment ago, like the show gets confusing.
Yeah.
But
Not that it jumps around or anything. It's just like so many different storylines sort of interwoven. It's hard, and it doesn't fill you in completely. Like it leaves a lot of gaps intentionally.
Yeah, which I like the way they present it.
And so it's easy to fill those gaps with other things that you know that aren't necessarily there, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gets a bit
Anyway,
jumbled.
yes. Before any of the stuff that I just said, you go ahead.
They create this AI out of boredom, is my guess. But they wanted. It just seems so weird to me because they're already so busy with their jobs and stuff, and then clearly after this they start seeking out, life partners and whatnot. But yeah, they create this girl and with AI, and they make her like teenaged age, so she'll always be that age, and they kind of give her those emotions and those. I don't know why they want to just live with the unruly hormonal teenager, but they do this. And
I mean, they were studying something about that time, like having to do with, I guess maybe there's more of a likelihood that girls at that age commit suicide. So they were sort of trying to study that, I thought, right? Wasn't that
that could be. I mean, they definitely talk about that a lot, like after the fact, like in our current time.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember them setting that up. But
okay.
maybe that is like they're like we'll do an experiment and use ourselves as the test subjects and just observe this. But I don't know. It's like their AI is that good that they can conflate it with human, development. I don't know.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of amazing technology in this.
Yeah.
But
I mean, eggs alone, right?
yeah, exactly. Which I love that as like a fantasy element or just
and the fact that they have managed to put themselves into like living dolls of some sort.
yeah,
I mean, not Shadow's House living dolls, but living dolls.
which aren't even.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what
These
about
are
that?
more dolls.
What about that Shadow's House finale, guys? Wasn't that great?
So awesome! Wow, I'm really looking.
I'm making. You can't say you're looking forward to it because this is after.
I'm looking forward to hearing what I thought of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was making a little joke because it doesn't come out until today actually. The day that we're recording this.
Oh, nice.
I think the Shadow's
I
House
think you're
finale
right, yeah.
is dropping, but we haven't watched it yet. Anyway, off topic. Sorry.
got
If you haven't
dolls.
watched Shadow's House, go watch that. It's a great show.
If you like the idea of autonomous dolls,
Yeah.
just the idea of it.
Anyway, yeah, amazing technology. It's the similar vein to what you were saying about Shadow's House before.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So anyway, I'm not sure why, but they cue us in if you're more knowledgeable about this. But they create this girl, and she ends up naming super advanced AI. So she names herself Frill, and I don't know. We get like a montage. Everything's fine. Everything's rosy. They're doing that's a whole thing.
I'm not sure how well that came through on the mic, but yours was better.
That's a quirk she does, which becomes very important later on. But yeah, they have a fun, sunny montage. Everything's going great until we get to the point where one of them they both kind of are, have their eyes on this lady, real human lady, and one of them starts dating her, and yeah, that's what you were.
And then everything that I said before.
Yes. So if you remember that, I guess I could edit it. No. So they start dating and they eventually get married, I think, and then they have a child. Well, she's pregnant with said child, and all along, they don't seem to notice this, but Frill is getting more and more jealous. She's getting less and less time, and she's not getting the validation or the whatever she needs, the nourishment she needs, and so she gets really vindictive. And while the this mom lady is taking a bath. She tosses a plugged-in hairdryer into the bath and goes that route. And so it's assumed, obviously, that the wife dies, but then the child lives. Not really sure. It seemed like she was pregnant with her at that time. I don't know. I'm curious how that works if you get electrocuted to death, but you're carrying a child. I don't know. Interesting.
I don't know.
But she survives somehow, and her name's Himari, and so they start raising this Himari girl. All the while, they lock Frill in the basement. They don't like kill her or disconnect her, or I don't do something more drastic. They just lock her in like a coffin kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the basement. That's that's what basements are for, right?
Yeah,
your dark secrets.
Where she has access to the internet or something. I don't know. Isn't there a bunch of computers and stuff in there or something?
Well, there is like later on when they after the next thing that happens when they go down to check on her and she's got all these like computers and wires in there, which reminds me of anime Serial Experiments Lane. It's kind of cyberpunky, technologic anime. If anyone's seen that, but yeah. So what happens with their daughter?
I don't know. You're gonna have to continue. This whole part is kind of muddy. For me.
Okay. So there's a scene where I got them mixed up. I think Akka is the one that got with that lady and they had the kid together.
I believe so.
And then Uda Akka is the friend.
The one with glasses, right? Uda Akka.
I think. Well, they both wear glasses in the current time, but I think in the past only one of them did.
Oh, okay.
But both the dolls that wear glasses, even more confusing.
Okay.
But anyway, the other one that she's not related to is more of an uncle. They're at a restaurant. I don't know why it's just the two of them, but she's like teenaged age around there.
Oh, I remember the scene now. Okay.
Yeah, and she's being kind of, I don't know. She's like, oh, like I heard that you and my dad were fighting over my mom, and she's pretty much saying that like once I'm old enough, like we could be together.
Yeah,
he's like,
she does.
Yeah, that's
in
literally
fact say that. Yeah,
that's literally what she's saying. I mean, she doesn't come out and just say it outright, but yeah, she completely.
I think she does.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think it was completely direct, but it was enough that it was clear what she meant, and he, was just like, quit being silly. But anyway, that night, she dies, and I'm not sure. I don't know if they show it.
I think we're supposed to presume that she killed herself, right?
Yeah.
And then we get into Frill having internet access and everything down there, and I don't remember if they actually say it, but it seems like Frill has been in communication with her and lots of other girls or whatever, and is sort of driving these girls to kill themselves.
She somehow, because they even say like there's a lot of variables to consider with teen suicides, but she has become Frill has become some major component in driving that, which is interesting. But then in this flashback, the last we see of her, Uda Akka is like dragging her by the arm, and she's like still like smiling and laughing, and it's like, what are you gonna do, kill me? And then it just cuts from that, so we don't really it's still unresolved to this point, like what really happened to her. But that is the backstory.
It wasn't Uda, it was Akka, right? I don't know. Again, easy to confuse them.
Yeah, the one that her uncle, the one that's not her dad.
No, I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was the dad that because Frill killed his wife, he was the one that was very anti-Frill, basically. Wanted to get rid of her in the first place, but I thought it was Uda Akka that said to save her. The uncle was the more sympathetic one.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But maybe it was the uncle that he finally had enough. Maybe is that what it was?
That's what I thought. But but yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, because it does make more sense for the the dad to but then he'd also be like grief stricken too. So I don't know, he'd be in a state to do that. But either way, one of them does it.
Right.
But we don't know what they do.
We don't know what.
So that's the backstory. And I guess the last part is kind of we get the ending of, and I guess we didn't touch on this at all. At some point, they get these little helpers
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
Akkas give them these things that they can conjure, and that they take on the form of an animal.
Mm-hmm.
In the real world, they're just like small. It's like a little chameleon or a little
Yep, like palm sized.
yeah, palm
Yeah.
size. And then but then when they're in the dream world, they can there's some word they can say that makes them huge, and they can
Mm-hmm.
battle for them. So they become very important when we reach the end
Mm-hmm.
of the end, not the end of the show, but the end of them trying to save their friends or their loved ones.
Right.
Um,
Who is it first? Momoe first?
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so Momoe finally. It doesn't make sense that she'd be first, but I think she is. Um, she finally saves enough that she gets to save her friend.
yeah.
And then as soon as she does, some girl with a butterfly for a head sort of comes down
Pretty creepy.
and murders her pet. And then, oh, it's an alligator.
Oh,
Momoe is an alligator,
yeah.
I
She
think,
has a
right?
little alligator.
It's an
Yeah,
alligator. And then starts eating it, and
she makes her eat it
she makes her
too.
eat it too. Yeah, she says, "Oh, you can have some," and like shoves it in her mouth. And
And the implication is that once they, and that keeps happening to the other girls too, but it's
yeah,
like once they save enough eggs, egg people, then it frees their person,
hmm
and then they end up disappearing. So it's like they're, I don't know. My interpretation of at that time was just like what you thought was going to happen isn't, and
mm,
they're just gone now. Like you did something, but you're not going to bring them back because you can never bring them back. Um, but when the butterfly person, which is really creepy
mm,
scene. But when they show up, it seems like they just need to kill something. Like something's gonna die, because Momoe, ends up sending her little alligator to defend her, and that's what gets killed.
mm.
And then so she says, "Oh, you're pretty much safe now." And then and then after that, it happens to
I think Rika
Rika
next,
next.
right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah. So Rika completes her egg compilation thing, and yeah, and then her what was her thing? I don't remember. Her pet.
Oh, what was hers? Yeah, Eyes was the chameleon.
Yeah.
Um,
Nehru's was like a little mouse, right?
what was it? God, I can't believe
A
I
mouse
can't
or a rat or
remember.
something. But I don't remember what Rika's was.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
I don't know.
I guess
Isn't that?
salamander. Someone had a salamander or something.
Oh, I was thinking there was a flying thing of some sort, but maybe not.
Hmm.
I don't know.
But anyway,
Anyway, so yeah, hers dies too, and it's just sort of a
similar thing.
repetition of the same thing. And then I guess next,
I
I
think
don't
Eye
know.
is next.
Yeah, because we don't see Nehru's
Yeah, that's kind of
until the special, right?
yeah. So it happens to Eye, but then when Eye goes into the dream, she cracks the egg, and it's herself from
Right,
a parallel version of herself that committed suicide.
right. You can tell because she has different hairpins,
Yes.
and she's not wearing a
Slightly
sunflower
different. At first, I
sweater.
thought their heterochromia was like swapped, but it's not. I thought
Yeah.
it'd be, I don't know, nice touch.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so she's the one that she's supposed to be saving, and then it culminates in her doing that, and it releases Koito, and then she disappears. And those scenes of when their person disappears, like it's very impactful. Like I don't know, like I felt
Hmm.
that loss of this is reality, like this, it sort of to me it was like a symbolic, uh, um, not rite of passage, but like of letting go. It was like a symbolic form
Mm,
of, this statue has been a reminder that I'm still holding on to my grief and haven't gotten over it.
hmm.
But in working towards this and putting my life on the line and literally living a nightmare, I've reached a point of, I don't know, solace or something. But anyway, we'll get
And
into that later.
and I guess probably worth mentioning that parallel universe eyes big bad monster at the end is Sensei, right?
Yeah, the Sawaki.
Sawaki.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or Sawaki or whatever.
Which leads more into thinking that he's like a bad guy, and
Yeah.
you know, his intentions are bad, and you know, and it seems to be a theme that was sort of throughout the end of this, was that
Yeah,
he's a
there's
bad
something
guy,
up with him.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's either that or it's their perception of these adults in their lives and
right,
all the stuff they pin on them.
right, and maybe it's in the parallel universe, things might be different. Sawaki might be a different
That's true.
person. So
That's true.
I don't know.
really. Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily relate to this universe,
Yeah.
as it turns out in the special.
And I think that mostly gets us to the special.
I think so. Yeah.
There's
We'll
probably
probably
some
think of stuff along the way, but
that we forgot, but that's most of it. So it's we both got excited, I think, because it's like a 40+ minute episode,
yeah,
and it's being released. I mean, I think the show proper wrapped up in end of March or something, or March.
yeah, probably, yeah, the end of March.
And so I didn't, I wasn't watching it then, and I caught up later for this. But people were waiting from March till now to get this, to get this finale. And it was kind of unfortunate because the first half of it is all recap.
Yeah, which I mean, shouldn't have been a surprise because it was, like said to be a normal size 23-minute episode. But then when it showed up on the streaming service as a 45-minute, I was like, oh, it's even more. But no, the first 23 minutes is a recap, and the second 23 minutes is the actual special.
And that constitutes, I mean, just 20 minutes each. That's the second recap of this season.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was nice, just because it had been a while, and well, for you, I watched it more recently. But in doing this podcast on it, kind of like, oh yeah, refresh my memory of these things.
Yeah, it went through it pretty quickly, and
got all the bullet points.
I don't think it would have. I think if you hadn't watched the series and you just watched this, you would not.
Yeah, watch the series.
It would not work. There's too much.
Don't just watch the last episode. That'd be in it. Maybe we should do a season.
Well, I mean, normally they do a recap so that people can like jump in at the recap point, right?
Yes.
Like, it's very often how they do it. But this, I don't think so. It just wouldn't work.
The first recap, I think, was like episode 5 or something. That would be. Yeah, a more justifiable point to jump in if you wanted to. But yeah, so I think we had a lot of expectations. Like a lot of things were wrapped up, but there's still like we have Frill, who's like seemingly still out there,
right?
And controls these minions, these butterfly moth people, flower people. I don't know. I guess they're mostly insect, but one of them kind of seemed like a flower to me. But
yeah. I don't remember that one, but okay.
But instead, and what else do we have unresolved? The Frill stuff.
Frill stuff.
The reason Koito died, we got a little bit of that, but
yeah, I mean that pretty well resolves in this, but I guess that was somewhat unresolved. It felt resolved at the end of episode 12, sort of like
enough. Yeah,
we were led to believe that maybe Sawaki was in fact a creeper, basically.
Yeah.
That's where we were left at in episode 12, and this resolves it differently. Which was somewhat unexpected, but like I didn't feel like there was any more resolution needed for that. It was mostly the Frill stuff is what I was expecting.
That's the biggest, yeah.
And there's nothing of that in this, basically.
So the Frill stuff, and then by extension, all the Akka stuff related to Neru's company that she runs, and where she came from, and all that. But then we do learn. I guess we can run through. I don't know. Just run through randomly, or should we go scene by scene?
Whatever you want to do.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll go with the Koito stuff. According to Mr. Sawaki, we learned that Koito was having an affair with some other teacher, not him.
At her previous school.
It wasn't me, yeah. And he had a family, a wife and kids and stuff, and it got to a point where...
And it's unclear whether he was actually having an affair with her or if she was just making claims regarding that.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that's all he really says is that she said a lot of things about him, I guess.
Yeah, and kind of pushed him to kill himself.
Yeah.
So you would think that there would be something more to that, unless she was just going to really great lengths to, assassinate his character. But
because she had a crush on him and he turned her down, possibly.
could be.
And then she, uses social sabotage against him, I guess.
Yeah, we didn't get like a fun backstory like scene.
Yeah, we didn't get all of that. It was just basically what Sawaki told us, and sort of left it open to our interpretation, I guess.
And then he said that she, sort of not blackmail, but like it gave him sort of an ultimatum to meet her on the top of the school.
Well, she was doing the same thing to him, basically. She was
okay.
She had some feelings for Sawaki, I guess, and was trying to get him to engage in a relationship with her, and he turned her down. It sounded like that's what he was saying anyway.
I guess,
And
yeah.
then-
I didn't catch on to that, but that could be, yeah.
And she was threatening to do the same thing that she did to this last teacher if he didn't come up and meet her on the roof. And then so he did, and she apparently started screaming all sorts of things about how he had raped her and all kinds of stuff. And then she accidentally fell off the roof, I guess.
Yeah, that's what he said. I was like, oh, so that's not really...
Which doesn't make sense with everything we've set up with the girls that we're saving. All the girls that need to be saved are girls that have committed suicide.
Yeah.
So if she accidentally fell off the roof, she didn't commit suicide. It wasn't her intent to kill herself, right? So why would she have been...
It's like self-manslaughter.
Yeah. I mean, she intended to pretend she was going to kill herself, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So it just kind of creates a weird like hole in the story for me there.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wonder, like, if we're supposed... I mean, I agree with you, and I wonder if we're supposed to take everything he said at face value, or...
Right.
And it's like the whole idea of, like, oh, she accidentally killed herself is usually, like, you're trying to soften the blow, you know? It's like you don't want to admit that... like, when I was in high school, I had a friend that she didn't succeed, but she tried to hang herself, and she was found, and they saved her. But when they told the whole school about it, and they brought all her close friends, me included, into a classroom to kind of break it to us. And yeah, they did the same thing where they phrase it as an accident. She was just playing, she was messing around, you know. They didn't want to actually address the thing, and so I wonder if that's part of it, because he is a teacher and he is dating her mom. He doesn't. I don't know, but
maybe, or there's still the possibility that what he's telling us is sort of true and sort of a lie, because he's covering up for an inappropriate relationship that he maybe had with her.
Yeah.
He's saying that there was no inappropriate relationship and that she died accidentally and all this stuff, but it's still possible
they could have relations, yeah.
That happened, but then that kind of disrupts some other stuff that's revealed in this special, where I basically decides that he's an okay guy, and she wants her mom to be happy, and she's happy that he's dating her and all of that stuff. So she's apparently let go of those negative thoughts that she had about him.
Yeah, she's kind of
somewhat
him.
Based on what he told us.
Yeah,
so
she believed him, and so I guess that would be, if there were to be more story, that would be interesting if that were the case, that Koito and he had relations, and in that case, maybe he was trying to get close to Ai's mom because he knew that she was her only friend, really, only close friend, and that he maybe didn't know what she knew. But I don't, little far fetched maybe, but like I'll get close to the mom. And that way, like, if I, tells her anything, I can be like, oh, she's being emotional. Well, or, like, that's not, you trust me, right? I wouldn't do that.
Timeline-wise, I think he didn't start dating her until after Koito had killed herself, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
For sure, yeah.
All right.
And then even before that, like, which is still after her death, he was coming around, like, a lot, before they officially started dating or whatever.
Yeah, well, he's her teacher and was like checking in on her.
Yeah,
was what it was set up as.
Yeah, it's like, oh, your
so
mom's, mom's pretty cute there. I'll have to check on you more often. But yeah, so that's speculation entirely. But
and I guess that sort of leads us into talking about Nehru. Maybe is the next one.
Yeah, we can do that.
It doesn't lead us into it, but like. That's the only other thing I can think of to talk about, unless there's something else you think.
Well, there is something else, but yeah, let's do Nehru. Well, okay, I guess there's this whole thing. Maybe it would segue into Nehru, but like I was hinting at earlier, I really like the idea of them saving all these girls out of the eggs to try to bring back their person,
Mm,
whoever that was.
right.
And I like the idea of like that not working. And but this episode retcons all of that and
Hmm.
says no, they are back, but they don't remember you. So it's one of those like completely conveniently forgot the last year or whatever.
Yeah. Well, my my interpretation of that, trying to give them as much the writers as much credit as possible,
Yeah,
is that they wrote it that way because these girls who had killed themselves, still a question on Koito, uh, they couldn't be the same person that they were when they did that, or they would just essentially kill themselves again. They would still
I
be in the
see.
bad place.
Yeah,
So you have to remove all of the bad stuff that led to that, I guess. So when these girls come back, like like Koito's not going to remember I because her becoming friends with I was around the same time as all this other stuff that was going on.
yeah.
Um,
No, yeah,
so I don't know.
I don't. I think that is generous. I don't.
I
I,
think so too.
I don't think. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't explicit, and it's also the kind of thing that seems a bit much for us, the viewer, to surmise.
Yeah.
Based on that. And when I was watching the episode, I was wondering where that was going to go. But then it essentially, for me, led into the whole Nehru thing. It's like, oh, all the three of them that are remaining. It's like we have our people back, but the Nehru that's here doesn't remember us, and so that's what leads them to think like, oh, maybe she changed too. And
Mm,
then they start to look more into it, and
yeah.
we learn some more about her.
And Nehru's secretary, well, formerly Nehru's secretary, says, "Oh yeah, the person that you were talking to that didn't remember you, that's Iru, Nehru's sister, who came back and doesn't remember them or whatever." Wait, when does this happen? I've sort of got this out of order too, I think. But
No, I think you're right.
okay,
Yeah.
because I mean, before that with Nehru, doesn't she come and give her pet to I and say, "Take care of this because I'm leaving for a
Yeah,
while"?
that's what I was confused about. Is like, so that must have been, that was kind of the very beginning of the after the recap, the proper episode. They
Mm.
kind of run into each
Well, the
other on the
first thing
street.
Nehru's like talking to her bunny slippers,
Oh,
but
that's true. That's true.
and then she goes and gives her the thing, and
So maybe at that point she was on her way to go do the final egg, and so she gave her pet companion thing, and so she wasn't able to sacrifice that when she was there, and so
yeah,
that's why she didn't come back, because she herself was taken, or this is my best guess,
right.
but it wasn't clearly established.
But yeah, so then we get to the thing with the secretary saying, "Oh, that's Iru, that's the younger sister who I guess came back, but people outside wouldn't know that they came back, right? Because they would have been there the whole time, I presume. Like
Yeah,
everyone's memory has been rewritten or something. But the secretary remembers the girls. I don't know. It's a little confusing there. But come to find out that Nehru is actually a AI clone of Iru, and the reason that Iru tried to kill Nehru is because she became jealous of her or something. I don't know.
yeah,
So Iru is
offhanded.
actually the experiment from the Aka's brain trust group or whatever that
Yeah.
Created. Yeah, I don't know.
Created all these AI.
Yeah, except she's not an AI. Iru is not an AI.
Yes, yeah.
It is Iru, right? I got that right.
I'm not sure. I missed that name thing, but I'll take it.
I think it's Iru. Nehru, Iru. I think so. But yeah, so Iru is not an AI. She's not a clone or whatever. She is a artificially inseminated
So she's the
test tube
real
baby,
deal.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which the other one, the other heterochromia girl was as well. But Nehru is not one of those. I mean, they seem to have the capability of making clones or whatever. I don't know. She's an AI of some sort, or maybe she's just a clone. But she's not the original. And but they call her an AI, right? They say she's
She's
an
an
AI.
AI. Yeah.
I don't know.
it's confusing, and all of this is sort of an offhanded comment. It's not really like they don't really dig into it and give us any payoff with it. But and then also during the scene, the secretary brings him back to where the other girl, Nehru's friend, who was
Well, they
comatose.
take her. Yeah, they take her to Nehru's apartment, and
Yeah.
this girl is there.
Yeah, and we learn that she's not the one from this world. She's from a parallel world.
Right.
Why that matters, I'm not sure. But
Well, she says like, "Oh, I came here from a parallel world because the me that was here died, and two of us can't exist in the same world at the same time." Something like that. So she knew that this parallel world was unoccupied by a her. So she was able to just sort of move in.
Interesting. I wonder if it's like a porta potty door, just goes from occupied to vacant. Like, all right, time to switch worlds. But yeah, so she's there, and I guess her purpose is just to kind of tell us a little bit.
That.
Yeah, to say what we just said, but not really go into much detail. And then they're like, "All right, we gotta go." And essentially, I goes there with Rika. And Momoe is kind of checked out. She doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, she's out of there.
Yeah, just kind of done. And I'm kind of with her on this. I'm like, just call it good. I mean,
she's been done since she finished the egg run and her pet died. She's like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And they all sort of decided that they weren't going to do any more eggs. Because they had reached their goal, I guess, right?
Yeah. Except now it's like, there's something, Nehru messed up, if she didn't come back like they did. And
right.
So, yeah, this leads us to the ending of this episode, which ends on a cliffhanger, which is not what I was expecting. Essentially, I has some doubts, but then she takes up the call to
she goes back to the
save her.
Abandoned shopping mall and goes to where the eggs are because apparently she's going to be able to save her through the eggs somehow, which means that Nehru killed herself, I guess, or maybe she accidentally died like Koito did, or
maybe,
I don't know.
Well, it seems like the only way you can get into that world is with an egg. So I don't know if it's like,
okay, so she's like trapped in there or something like that.
Maybe that's what I'm confused about, because the whole
the whole so that earlier scene where she's giving her the thing to take care of or whatever, it's something that people that are planning to die, I think, sort of start giving away possessions and stuff. Like that's one of the things you look for if you're concerned about someone possibly killing themselves, I believe.
Yeah, it's one of the signs. Yeah,
and so. I don't know. They don't really tell us what Nehru did after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe she just went and killed herself something, and now she's in the eggs, and I has to go in and save her or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, based on the other three, their experience was that they sacrificed their pet to. Not really realizing it, but they sacrificed their pet to save themselves.
Right.
But Nehru gave her pet to, to Ai presumably before going. And so I assume that she had to sacrifice herself to do that. But if that's the case, like, is there any saving her?
To get Iru back, she had to do that. But then there's that part in the middle where they're shown the video of
the dream
of Nehru's last dream, right? Yeah. And in that we hear, like, we don't see what happens, but we sort of hear it, right? And Nehru says Veni, which is return.
Oh, that's true.
Meaning that she's returning her pet to the ball or the Pokeball, whatever it is that they come in. So that couldn't have been the one where she saved Iru. That would have been the one before that or something, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm a bit confused on exactly what happened. But sounds like what you're saying is that she gave her the pet. She gave Nehru gave Ai her pet, and then went in to the egg, her final egg, to be able to save Iru. And we know that Iru was saved because she was in the office.
Yeah.
And then she didn't have since Nehru didn't have her pet there for the butterfly head girl or whoever it is, for the frill cronies to kill. But it doesn't make sense because that back to that same video, right? After she says Venny,
Yeah.
and then she says, "Oh, there's 3 of you. I guess I get a special honor or something like that,
Okay.
right?" And like, so that's Frill and her cronies, or 3 of Frill's cronies, right?
Yeah.
That are showing up, which means that is when she saved Iru, and somehow she got out of there alive, and then later gave her pet to because because her pet was
Reasons?
clearly in the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, that I had forgotten about
So
that.
that means that
them
she
watching
left
that video.
afterwards. And then then maybe Nehru did like just go off and kill herself after that. Sort of like what the secretary said was, I think she was afraid of you finding out the truth about her, which was that she was an AI. So
Yeah.
apparently she has some, I don't know, hang up about that.
Yeah. Which I guess if she knows the story of Frill and what happened, that whole tale, then maybe that would be
Anyway,
a
I guess,
reason.
be on the lookout in the next 2 years for a Wonder Egg Priority movie that's going to explain all of this.
God.
If you even care after having watched this special. I'm not sure that I do. I'll probably still watch it.
I'll watch it. I mean, I care. I mean, honestly, like having seen this finale, I think the show could just end after episode 12. Like you don't need it. Like if you watch the show and you like it, like you could just stop there. You don't really need it anymore.
It was very open and it left a lot of unanswered questions. Is true of episode 12 and episode 13.
Yeah.
Like it's true of both of them. Now 13 does answer some questions that we weren't asking, but
yes.
Yeah, it's weird. Like they could have wrapped up all the stuff from episode 12, but the way episode 12 ends open-ended and not answering those questions feels better than the way 13 ends.
Yeah.
Still sort of open and unanswered questions.
It's like difference between leaving you wanting more versus just shaking your head. Like
yeah.
And that the 13th episode isn't abysmal. It's just after such a great solid show, to end it with this sort of, it just felt non-committal to me. Like knowing it was the last episode and not knowing if they're going to make any more. It's like, really, this is what you go with? Like it's such a not a centerpiece of a finale,
Yeah, to me it seemed to indicate that this episode was created because they have intentions to try and make a movie or OVAs or something, or I don't know.
Yeah.
They
Interesting.
Like maybe they had different ideas in mind at the time when they were going to wrap up the show in a different way, but because of their production troubles and the fact that they had to do a recap in their 4th episode or whatever it was, they ended up pushing the episode back. And then by the time they got around to making it, they decided to do it differently or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe
like some of the stuff I can see being part of a finale and wrapping things up with like the AI thing, I guess. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It could have been done better in my opinion, but I guess they wanted to do something different. And my speculation is the reason they chose to do it that way is because they plan on having more material in the future.
Which could be. And check that out. But yeah, for me, the biggest thing that bothered me was them, establishing that all these girls were brought back, like that.
Yeah.
Like I just love the idea of this being more of a metaphor for them coping with, with their loss,
right,
and making friends along the way. But done in such a way that it felt, that aspect of it felt really real and grounded and had a lot of weight to it. And this finale just feels like just a waft, just not much of anything.
Yeah. All right. Well, you got anything else you want to say? I think I've said everything I need to say about it.
I guess I'll just wrap up by saying, if you haven't watched this show, I recommend it despite this last episode, which doesn't, undo, I don't think, doesn't undo the great things about the show. but it is a spectacular looking show. Like the show looks great from start to finish. Has a lot of really cool elements, really good action, which you might not expect from this type of show. And yeah, every from the character design to the character writing, it's all good stuff. And I can't crap on it. I don't know what I'd give it though. I would have been leaning on an 8 before this
Yeah.
finale, but it's hard to say. But definitely a strong 7, if not if not an 8.
I don't know, I'm trying to think of how much this ending. I mean, it's nothing. It doesn't. I don't think it changes it. If it didn't exist versus its existence, does its existence lower my score? I don't think so. I think it's probably. I think I was probably a high 7 before. It's probably still, just looking at the first 12 episodes.
Yeah.
And then with this one, I don't think it really has that much of an effect. It doesn't add anything, but it doesn't take much away. I was going to say it doesn't take anything away, but it does a little bit. It takes a little bit
Yeah,
away.
I agree. And I don't like to put like a lot of emphasis on endings. They are important, but it doesn't, yeah, having a lackluster ending doesn't ruin, to me. Maybe in certain shows when it's all kind of built on that final reveal. But this had enough going on in it, enough, they landed enough things successfully that it's worthwhile. And I'll probably watch it again in the future. Like it's kind of a
Yeah, I mean, ending. I said this before we started recording, but endings are hard to do in a way that everyone feels satisfied with it, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't want the thing that they like to end,
Yeah.
right?
And the people making it don't want to end it in case it is popular, so they can make more.
Right. Except when sometimes they do. I guess this one, because it's so open, yeah, they're not really ending it, and maybe that's the problem with it. But I'm thinking of like things like Game of Thrones and other things where it is like the end. This is the end of it, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way you can end something like that without angering a lot of people that love it, because they don't want to see it end, really. And there have been shows that have done it successfully, but it's a difficult thing to do. Like it's got to be like lower than 10% of shows that do a proper final episode. Like this is the very last episode that will ever be made, and they somehow land it in a way that everyone's happy with it. I don't even think everyone would ever be happy with it, but almost everyone, let's say.
Or it'd be a generally
regarded as a good final episode, something that, wraps up the entirety of the body of work that you have spent months, years, whatever, watching, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do.
It is, especially in these long-running properties. Like a single movie happens often, but having especially when they get super popular, neither side wants to end it, and then it usually ends in questionably. But and then anime in particular, like I can't think of a lot of anime that, for me personally, have very satisfying endings. Like a lot of them kind of just peter out, or don't commit, or don't even try to end it. Like just it's over.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, or they have open endings very often, so that you can imagine the characters going on and doing different things, which is maybe a better way to end it a lot of times. But I don't know. I was just thinking this, like maybe the wait from episode 12 to this special might have had an effect on how it's perceived. Because you've had so much. Yeah, instead of waiting a week, been waiting 3 months to get this. So had lots of time to build it up in my mind, I guess, and think of, what are all the things that they're going to do? And I get to analyze all the little things that I've thought about throughout the show, and I start structuring my own story, and their story goes differently than what I had put together. So that's really on me. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they had all this extra time, but it's like maybe that was worked against them, Like I think you were hinting at that earlier. Like, they just were like too many options.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I can't explain it, but it's a good show. I think if you were going to watch it, if you haven't watched it, well, then you've just been spoiled on everything that happens in the show. So
still
good
worth
job,
watching,
you. But if you're going to watch it, I'd watch the 12, and I think I would probably just leave 13 off until whatever the next thing that comes out comes out.
That's true.
And if that comes out, then you're probably going to need to watch 13 before you go into that, because it retcons some things and changes some things up. So, but as the 12 episodes go, it is sort of an unsatisfying ending at the end of episode 12, because you feel like there's so many unresolved things. But again, after episode 13, it's still unresolved and unsatisfying as well. So you might as well just end it at 12.
I think it's kind of dark and fills you with emptiness, but the end of 12 is a more satisfying emotional ending, I think, by comparison. Like, just with, them saving their girls and them just disappearing, and them also sacrificing their pets too.
Right.
Like, they're literally losing, like, not everything, but so much of, what was important to them.
Yeah. I don't know, but then we wouldn't have got that, super happy scene at the end of the episode 13 where I's like, "Oh, I'm back," or whatever the heck she says.
Yeah, it's like,
what?
I almost felt like the end to like a first episode or first or second episode of like more of like a shonen, adventure anime where it's like, you're finally taking up the call to action to like go on it, but it's like, no, we've already been on a journey. Like,
right? Yeah.
What are we doing?
This isn't the. I mean, I guess it's intended to be another call to action for her
for
to
a new
continue her adventures or whatever, but I don't know. If
Mr. Sawaki is really up to no good, then I guess that would be a good time to explore all that. But I do want to add before I forget, because I watched a lot of the first episodes dubbed on Funimation.
No, I'm sorry.
And Tony's not a fan of English dubs, but whatever. I like a good dub. There's many reasons to enjoy a dub. So if you enjoy one, I recommend this one too. The person they cast as the main character, is fantastic. Like, I don't know, she kills it. And obviously I watched.
I don't believe that. Fantastic is overstating it.
No, it's really good casting. Like, I don't care what you say. You're not going to watch it anyway. But
well, maybe I will go watch it just so I can counter you.
I mean, you don't have to see it. You can just, you'll argue me on any point.
Yeah, because English voice actors are bad.
Oh my goodness. Anyway,
sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
That's mostly it. There's a lot of great casting choices, but who they got for was really good. There's really good score. I like the intro song, Grew on Me, a lot. There's a lot of things to like about this show, but some people only look for English dubbed anime, and so if that's your gateway into anime, so be it.
Is the song different?
No, it's the same song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was just thinking about other things that I liked about it, but yeah, the dub was a lot of times I'll throw on the dub if it's something I'm catching up on, just to it just makes it a little easier. You don't have to be focus on the subtitles so much. But some dubs are irritating, aggravating, and have these high pitched voices, or they just don't fit. But I like to at least check them out, and so I'm doing that as a service as well for our listeners. So this passes my dub sniff test.
I accidentally watched the beginning of the Sailor Moon movies.
Oh, really?
Dubbed, like it started off dubbed, and I only got like one line into it before I realized it, of course. But then I switched to the Japanese, and the difference in the voice acting is just so incredibly obvious. I don't know. Yeah, maybe the girl who plays Ai in this is an incredible voice actress, and will have a very successful career in a country that cares about voice actors, so not the United States.
Anyway, she's great. I should have wrote down her name, but anyway, that's all I got.
Well, if she's listening to this podcast, good job.
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. It paid off for me.
And I'm sorry that I said that you're not fantastic, because you probably are.
Like, I already, like, they're still dubbing the show, but when they finish, I already want to go back and watch it dubbed. So if that's any indication, but either way, I think that wraps us up on Wonder Egg till we get some more. Maybe.
I'd say that there's a good chance they're going to try and make more.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it'll actually happen or not.
Based on the negative reaction to this last one.
Yeah, that's what makes me think that it might not happen. Anyway, yeah, that's it. This is our episode of Like Anime, the podcast where we talk about like anime
And stuff.
and sometimes some other stuff, mostly anime, but sometimes not anime. Anyway, you can find us on all the social networks and places at umlikeanime, UMLIKEANIME. You can find us on our website at umlikeanime.com. It's spelled the same, so I'm not going to spell it again. If you missed it the first time, just rewind.
That's right. We got a Patreon.
Got a Patreon. Got some merch
we got
available
merch now.
on the website that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And yeah, the merch itself, I said this the last time we mentioned the merch. We make less than $1 on every item. That's just so that we can get it to you at the lowest possible price that we can. We're not looking to make money on it. If you're looking to support the show, then Patreon is a much better way to do that because we get a lot more of that money. But if you want a cool little coffee mug with our name on it for the low price of $8.99, I think, plus probably $6 shipping, then you can go there if you absolutely must have it. I myself absolutely had to have it, so I bought several items myself.
We're already rolling in the dough.
I doubt anyone else is really that interested in owning something with our name on it.
Yet.
Most people, they think buying merch will, support the show and stuff. So I just want to say, you're not really supporting the show if you're buying merch. If you're buying merch, it's for yourself. It's not for us.
You're supporting it in a way. You're
advertising it, I guess. Yeah, that's
you bring
true.
it to work and show it off.
Yeah, if you bring it to work and show it off, then yeah, we appreciate it.
Do.
Plus the 43 cents that we made off of you. Yeah, that's it. I got nothing else to say. Like anime.
See you next time.